36 years to the day after the arrest of Manuel Noriega. We're at it again, buddy. History, we need that rhyme time jingle or something going here, because early this morning, apparently, under the cover of U.S. bombardment against anti-aircraft batteries, CIA operatives, or at least one CIA operative inside the regime, captured Nicolás Maduro and expedited his exfiltration through to Delta Force soldiers who transported him onto the USS Iwo Jima. Maduro, his wife Cilia Flores, and there's a handful of others in the indictment released in Southern District of New York today by Attorney General Pam Bondi, which includes his son and 3 others who are all members of Tren de Agua and or high-ranking members of the Venezuelan regime.
But he didn't grab all of them. Did we get all of them?
There's 6 people, by my count, in the indictment. And so right now, all I can say Maduro, his wife, and his son. Or I should say Maduro and his wife, well, we know were captured and abducted. His son and those 3 others, either they were also captured and abducted, or they already had them, or they're planning to get them, and or they're just indicting them in absentia.
Wow. So more importantly, over all this, is how do we work out our bet?
Because I won. Oh, you lost. You owe me $1. You said before Thanksgiving, and I said in 2026. Hold on. I can get you the exact...
But we did do an attack on their ground. Last week when we blew up the port, that was the beginning, no?
No. So you and me, yes, very important. I'm glad you're bringing this up.
All right, then you won. If that doesn't count, then you won. There's no question. Then you said in the new year.
Hold on, let's say we're taking the new year.
Literally,
I did say the new year because let's see. So our over under was you said we did before or after Christmas, right? Christmas was the over under. Do we invade? Do we do a full on attack or extract Maduro somehow? And I believe you said people have been saying that they're going to find a way to somehow find where he is and infiltrate and basically capture him somehow. And I said, that'd be interesting. I'm sticking with 2026. I'm saying after Christmas.
Right, and
then you said before Thanksgiving.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. So we never settled on the method, which I think, maybe next time we should.
Oh, we don't need to go into specifics, but that was pretty damn fucking close that we got.
Within 10 days, real damn close. Pat on the back. What else was I right about recently? What Trump's, emergency TV announcement was going to be like as well. I'm on all cylinders right now. I'm on fire, buddy. Feeling good.
Maybe we should be hired as like some kind of indicator of like, oh, we can't go. They're saying it might be next week. We can't go. It's tipping hands to everybody.
I'm going to be the Swami of sadness. I'm just going to be able to accurately predict within about a week-long period terrible things that are going to happen.
When your life becomes miserable, I can figure it out. But guess what? You might as well get your affairs in order. Next week, not looking good for you.
So, this entire thing has had Marco Rubio's fingerprints all over it. Son of Cuban exiles, has a big approach to rooting out socialism and communism within Latin America. This has been kind of his big bugbear for a while. Absolutely. He's all over it. Right now, Vice President Delcy Rodríguez, still Vice President, she's being flagged as interim, is basically, she's a close Maduro ally, demanded the immediate release of Maduro, of proof of life, called him the only president of Venezuela. But at the same time, we've got Trump somewhat expecting her to play ball, saying that the U.S. is going to administer an interim government. And Rodriguez herself is defiant. She's calling for what amounts to a general mobilization of Venezuela's various military, militia, and civilian groups to defend Venezuela's sovereignty.
Yeah, because Trump said in his speech that, she's playing ball but listen, in all fairness, what else is she going to go on TV and say? Because those soldiers are in the other room probably going to take her down if she doesn't play ball. So she's kind of has to go along with this, even if she might be, behind the scenes trying to do something so she doesn't get offed?
Well, you got to think about it, right? Again, if what I understand, what I've read from a couple of sources is true, right? There's CIA assets were involved with abducting Maduro in the middle of the night, right? It wasn't, we landed people and captured him. This wasn't Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, right? This was basically an inside job, and then we exfilled him under the cover of the military,
But
flight
it seemed
and
like
attack
we
and all that.
had a lot of resources inside. When they said that we had people
Yes.
inside, they're showing, because they sent a lot of helicopters in there just to take out a couple people. So they brought in a lot of people.
What's that line from Dame Judi Dench's line as M in one of the Bond movies? Is we have people everywhere. That's what florists say, but apparently it's true. It's So she's talking on both sides of her mouth, because clearly this is implying that she knows that there's still CIA-backed assets within the regime, and so she has to play nice, otherwise she could be next. And then, she has to put this kind of very rah-rah Venezuela nationalistic face on what she's saying to the outside world. So I don't know necessarily who to believe within that one. I think largely this is Trump's bluff, saying, we did it to Maduro, we'll do it to you. So play ball. I think she could call his bluff, or she's going to play along and settle both. What we know is that Maria Corina Machado, our erstwhile Nobel Prize winner from last year, called for Edmundo Gonzalez, the 2024 quote-unquote loser of the presidential election, to take control. And he brushed that off, saying, you don't have the popular support. You're not part of this equation, which is such a fuck you to her, because she's clearly power hungry. She's been slobbering on Trump's knob to get him to do this, and she got nothing out of it. So clearly kind of a MTG sort of situation, right? What was the other one who recently? Oh, Elise Stefanik, right? These people, they sucked up to Trump, and they got nothing for their troubles.
Well, wait, but she said that she thinks that guy should be president.
Edmundo Gonzalez, yeah.
Right. So then he said, you don't... What
he brushed her off. He brushed her off. He's like, you don't have the political support, the popularity.
Well, she doesn't, but the whole point is that he's supposed to have it.
Yeah, but Adam, you got to realize, right? That CIA insider, CIA assets within the top brass within Venezuela implies that those people are U.S. aligned, or they're opportunistic. But regardless, reading between the lines, Machado is a useful idiot to the Trump administration, very publicly, right? She's a Nobel Prize winner and all this. But the rewards for the regime change aren't going to go to the crazy lady who's been screaming for regime change. It's going to go to the U.S.-aligned assets, or the opportunistic assets who are going to do what we want, that facilitated the kidnapping and arrest. They're not going to Machado.
Right. But if they go to the Gonzalez guy, and if she's saying go to the Gonzalez guy...
And he's saying, yeah, no, you don't have this, because the rewards are going to go to the people who made sure Maduro got captured and ousted.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of rewards was she going to get?
Well, she's not going to get her guy into the presidency. This is why Trump is out there saying, we're going to administer Venezuela. We're going to run this in the interim. He's giving her a giant middle finger on the world stage, saying, you weren't a part of this. You weren't part of the coup. The rewards are going to go to the people who did the coup. They're not going to go to you, who's been asking for it. You weren't part of this. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So,
you mean you're telling me she's not doing this for the benefit of Venezuela, and
she's not doing it for love of the game, Adam? Yeah. No.
Nobody ever seems to, huh?
Exactly. Well, I mean, politically, think about it. Today's a big win for Trump, and it's a big loss for Maria Corina Machado. It's a big loss for Maduro, who's really got it rough right now. And it's going to be really interesting for Venezuela at the moment. The Trump doctrine is alive and well, right? We are going to be exercising control within our hemisphere. Trump's quote about it says it all. American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. That's all you need to know. This has been, you and I have been saying it for months that this is the approach. This is how he came into his second administration, and he's following through on it. I would look to see a lot more brazen activity around Greenland, which came up again recently. Yeah. Right around the Panama Canal, we're going to see a lot more movement, I think, because this is a guy who's been taken on the nose with Epstein. He's been taken on the nose with a shit economy that's just falling apart. Right? There's a reason he had to go on TV recently and basically bullshit his way through what was a rally disguised as a State of the Union address a few weeks ago. Which, by the way, State of the Union's in a couple weeks. Holy shit, that's going to be interesting, right, now that he has this feather in his cap. I think we're going to see a lot more adventurism from Trump. And if anyone who thought, I remember I mentioned this, right, Ryan Grimm over at Dropside News was talking about how this, and again, I said this is a Marco Rubio. This is his fingerprints all over it. This is his grand plan as what is his title? Secretary
of State and something else. He has two roles now.
But Secretary of State. He was talking about how he thought that Trump may be trying to hold these people back. He's definitely not anymore because he's seeing this as an absolute win.
It's funny, you don't see J.D. Vance anywhere.
Haven't for a while, right? Interesting. What's going on with that?
Too busy cozying up to Charlie Kirk's wife.
Yeah, him and Erica Kirk with her and her... her period of mourning, which lasted about 7.5 seconds.
But I don't know how much of a feather this is going to cap and be in his cap if it's like, okay, you have the guy, but everything's still going the same way. So, and he said he's not afraid to go back in and put boots on the ground. And so now all the MAGA people were like, yeah, we're going to end those wars. We're not going to care about other countries. And now it's like, what?
And I think I've said this before. It's amazing how America First involves fucking with other countries' business so frequently. Why is that happening so common if it's America First? Yeah, it's a perversion of America First, which is it's all our business and we're putting America first. Not that we're taking care of our own business. But I think it's going to be interesting, right? Look, it's Saturday. Mm-hmm. Commodities markets are closed. When the U.S. seized that oil tanker recently, barrel of oil shot above $60 briefly, came back down to about 57 afterwards. I'm wondering what the impact is going to be because right now, what do we have? We now have de facto control, in theory, let's just go with that for the moment, of the world's largest oil reserves. But it is a heavy sulfur-ridden fuel that needs specialized equipment. Apparently, PDVSA, which is the state-owned oil company in Venezuela, their pipelines haven't been updated in 50 years. That's their own records. It's been half a century. They need to update their infrastructure. It's not just under Maduro and Chavez that their output fell. It's that they neglected it entirely. Mm-hmm. And so the estimated cost to update all that is going to be close to $60 billion to get their stuff up to date and up and running. And you've got to realize they weren't even that prolific of an oil producer to begin with. They are doing less than 1% of the world's production right now. And they were only doing about triple that before Chavez and or Maduro took over in the last 1999, right? So 27 years at this point. So it's a drop in the bucket, literally a drop in the barrel. It's not going to make a big change. So if anyone thinking oil or your not necessarily oil, but your pump price for gasoline is going to change in any sort of meaningful way, it is absolutely not.
No.
But you've got, and this is right again, if there's one difference between the Democratic and Republican parties, that oil men are firmly on the Republican side of the fence. They got their money's worth. All the money that they threw into the re-election campaign, all of the super PAC money, all the dark money that's flown, towards Trump and his orbit, it's paid off for them. They're now going to have their assets back in theory right? They're going to have their oil fields. They're going to have their refining machinery and everything. It's going to be interesting to see. But I don't think we're going to see a change at the pump. I don't think it's going to move at all on Monday.
No. You know what? I was watching. Can't remember. It might have been CNN, and they were talking about the differences in oil and how most of the oil we produce is like a light, and we really need to use the heavy, and all our refineries are based on the heavy, and to change those refineries would be very expensive. And I'm just like, you're telling me it'd be more expensive to change those than to invade countries and spend billions upon billions and trillions of dollars? I don't think so.
Venezuelan oil is more valuable for like diesel and other kind of heavy fuels. It's not so good for gasoline that we put in our cars, which benefits from either West Texas Intermediate or Saudi light crude, which is far less heavy, far less sour, far less ridden with minerals and sulfur and things of that nature, right? And so there's different types of oil for different types of uses. This is why when every brain dead moron goes drill baby drill, it's like, that's not going to make a fucking difference. It's not about supply. It's about production capacity and the type of input that goes into there.
See, but now this is a theory I'm working on right now in my head, is that if you're an oil company and it's going to cost you billions of dollars to change refineries or change this or change that, when all it will cost you is millions or hundreds of millions to get politicians to invade another country to get their oil, the oil that you kind of need, sure is better return on investment. If you don't, it's like, you're not paying the soldiers, you're not paying anybody, you just paid this politician a few $1,000,000. Why would I spend $10 billion on fixing a refinery when I could have you go in and invade a country for me?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I know. Look, in the whole post-World War II regime era, whatever you want to call it, right? It's been, generally speaking, far more economically advantageous to trade with other countries and to develop economically that way than it has been to conquer and attempt to seize assets, which is very much the old way. This is kind of flipping that on its head. But again, it's just Trump, despite what some MAGA think and what he says, and I believe he believes it himself, he cannot just manifest reality by speaking it out loud.
Right.
Right. And so we're going to see. Venezuela might go into revolt. It might devolve into complete chaos, and the government might collapse. Any number of things can happen. Just another hardliner takes over because political coups and assassinations and things like always put someone worse into the driver's seat, right? There's so many unintended consequences here, and Trump is trying to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to take this win, get rid of Maduro, extradite him and indict him and put him on trial. But he also wants everything that he'd get magically without having to lift a finger from Venezuela. And I don't necessarily see that happening.
No, but it'll probably look better than Iraq to some extent, because you're not going to have so many different hands trying to get into the pot. But you're going to have people who are going to be fighting for their little power position. But you did have a lot of people who didn't want Maduro. But the people who did are not going to just like say, okay, go ahead. So they're going to fight back. And so you're going to have to either support a new military in some way or make sure you have the complete military. It's not going to go easy. And, today was a fine, great, wonderful day. But if she takes over and she doesn't change a damn thing, well, then we're back to square one, and this was like a big bust. Because what are you going to do? Keep going in there and just taking one guy out? You're going to spend $20 million on which I'm sure is way too low. You're going to spend $20 million to extract every single person and only offer a reward for that person of $50 million? I could only imagine how much money, all the bombs we spent and all the time we took to do this whole mission. Plus the equipment we blew up, because, if we're going to help them rebuild their country and stuff, well, aren't we going to foot the bill for some of that? I don't know. I just don't see this working as well as They think.
No, it's not. It's never going to be as smooth as they think.
But do they need it to be? Can this country just exist as their, to their siphoning point, and then just be like, okay, we just got to protect these bases. If they want to start killing each other, that's cool. We're just going to send back all the Venezuelans we don't want here, let them off each other, but we'll just protect our refineries and mineral resources, and that's it. And
I mean, what you're talking about is, and my first thought was Guantanamo Bay, right, in Cuba. But it wouldn't even, if you're occupying the mineral resources and the access to refining and extracting those, the wealth of the nation, that's not going to be untouched by any sort of civil unrest. Mm-hmm. That's going to happen.
You're going to give them a kickback. They'll say, all right, you guys will get 50%, we'll get 50%, and you leave us alone, or we'll just find you and blow you up. I guess if Venezuela goes swimmingly, which probably won't, then maybe Marco can go, hey, could I have Cuba? And Trump will be like, sure, let's go get Cuba.
So that's the thing, right? That's the domino effect here is, look, you've got Cuba and, Colombia and Mexico, both left-wing governments, both very much in and out of bed, right, with us in terms of the DEA and drug trafficking and all that. They're a lot more, let's call it complicated, for us to do something similar, but
at least a lot more smaller of an area than Venezuela.
No, geographically, I mean Venezuela's large, but Colombia is similar.
Oh, Colombia! Did I say Colombia?
I said Colombia. Yeah, you were thinking. I was saying, and the next one is Cuba, and obviously, right?
Because I know Marco might want Cuba back. He might be like, "Hey, I want my homeland back." That I'm assuming would be easier.
That's the thing. Venezuelan oil was the oil that Cuba and the regime there had access to. So now they've got an energy crisis on their hands. So they are actually, in the way that this stupid ass embargo that we've had for the last 60 some odd years, which hasn't done a goddamn thing to do regime change, this might actually be the thing that actually starts to put pressure on the Cubans.
Man, Cuba's an amazing place. If you will see the imagery of like a civilization that's stuck in time. I mean, they still have like so many like 1950s, 1960s American-made cars on the road. Mm-hmm. It's like incredible, the stuff you could see, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a car lover's paradise.
Oh, if you're a car guy, Cuba has this beautiful culture of it. Like you said, because they can't import these things, they can't get replacement parts and all this. They have to fix everything. And their mechanics have become extremely adept at just jerry-rigging a solution to keep these things running. But yeah, if you're a big car guy, you like American kind of, post-war sort of stuff, my God, it is heaven for you. But I'm wondering now about this indictment for Maduro. He's charged with conspiracy to traffic drugs, cocaine trafficking, and charges of machine gun ownership, of basically having a machine gun, and which I found hilarious compared to the rest of the indictment and all the notes and everything and the background and everything that the DOJ wrote up. It's only a 25-page indictment. It's a very quick read, but I found that comical because part of me is thinking, how much of this is true, right? I know that a lot of the individual incidents that they're talking about in terms of, hey, this plane took off from this airport and landed here and brought 1.6, tons of cocaine or whatever at this time. There's a whole bunch of those kind of incidents peppered throughout the indictment. But every time they're like, and it was Maduro who did it, or it was Maduro's son who did it, or it was, through his wife or whatever. And it's like, I wonder how much of that is actually true. Like, this is going to go to court. They didn't off the guy. He's going to stand trial. And that's the point where it's going to come out, the truth. He's going to have a defense attorney. He's going to have his ducks in a row. And this is not an administration that has shown itself to be competent in a court of law at all. Donald Trump's bullshit and bluster falls apart the moment it hits the judiciary because you need things like evidence.
I'm surprised they're in New York. Why New York?
I'm sure there's a legal reason for Southern District of New York. I just think that's where these things are supposed to come out of. I don't know.
Because I'm like, they're going to be like, you got nothing here, or you do have something here, but you don't usually go invade a country for that because there's a long list.
Well, that's that whole argument that they're making is this wasn't a military action. They're saying that this was a military escort for a police activity, for a lawful indictment against the conspirators. And it's like,
with the hope of a regime change.
kind of seems like you're splitting hairs here a little bit. Yeah, it's interesting. I think, I'm not quite sure, but it kind of opens up the door. It's like, okay, so if we can depose any sort of leadership that's been indicted in the name of law enforcement, I happen to know someone who's in charge of a very large country who had a lot of indictments and, in fact, had several convictions.
Yep.
And he lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So why couldn't someone else, let's just call it Canada, just for the fun of it, why couldn't Canada just kind of swing down with a whole Air Force's worth of geese and take him out and exfil him somewhere?
It's the same thing as always. He's the biggest we're the biggest bully in the room, so you can't.
And that's where, that's really what it is, right? Is ultimately talk big and carry a big stick is the name of this administration, and that's definitely its policy, and that's what we're seeing. That's what we saw today.
You got certain big dogs you can't, Putin, even Netanyahu. It's like you're not going to invade and take them because there will be repercussions. You
didn't even need to. Dogs. You wouldn't even need to invade to take Putin. He went to Alaska a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but I don't think that would have gone over well if we captured him there. It would have probably been. We probably gave him assurances for that.
Do you think we would have given a shit if it was Maduro traveling to Alaska to meet with Trump and we captured him there and then? Think any one of them would have cared?
I think. Well, you know what? The thing is, for that would have been like, okay, what are you going to do about it? You don't have any nuclear weapons. You don't have any kind of repercussions. For all we know, a submarine could pop up on the shore of Alaska and then launch a nuclear weapon at Los Angeles. Say, okay, yeah, Putin. Now we took away 50,000 people or something. Yeah. So there will be no repercussions from Venezuela unless all these Venezuelans in the country will now turn on us. But unlikely, because some of them seem to be cheering that he's gone now.
Oh, no, there's definitely a huge contingent of people who are happy that Maduro is gone. You got to remember, about a third of their population has fled over the last 15, 20 years, ultimately, right? It's Chavez and Maduro, and they've, for whatever reason, right, they fled. And we had a few 100,000 of them that I'm aware of, that I remember. How many of them are going to pop back in the country now? How many are going to go back? How many have already decided we started a new life somewhere else and we've left Venezuela behind for good? How badly is this administration and people like Stephen Miller going to want to get them the hell out of this country and send them back as some sort of vanguard to rebuild Venezuela, presuming that we have a puppet government in place?
The majority of these Venezuelans, if you guys think you're going to be allowed to stay here in a year or two, if things go somewhat swimmingly, good luck. They will escort you out of here. I can almost guarantee it.
And last but not least, Adam, I think the most important thing is, what is this going to do to the street price of baggy?
Well, considering it hadn't been changing much as we were blowing up all these boats, I can't imagine it changing much either, because I don't think they send that much to this country through Venezuela. I think it goes overseas. So we'll have to ask our European friends.
It's really wild to read the indictment because it talks just about this, essentially this narco trafficking superhighway from Colombia through to Venezuela, then through the Caribbean and Mexico and whatnot into the U.S. It's really a fascinating read. And it strikes me as that whole conservative viewpoint leading up to Iraq of the Muslims, they're all the same. These Arabs, they're all the same, without realizing it's not just Arabs. And Muslims have multiple sects, and a lot of these people fucking hate each other. Yep. And so they've got this amazing indictment of how these people, the FARC, the ELN, Trindoragua, this Cartel de los Sols, right? The Venezuelan brass, the Zetas, the Sinaloa cartel, all these folks, how they're just like basically skipping hand in hand through a fucking field, excited to smuggle drugs in. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that while they may have worked together in some capacity, they don't really like each other. And you're really, I think this trial is going to fall apart on its face. I'm really wondering how quickly they actually go to trial for him.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that you have to, in order to understand a lot of parts of the world, you just got to think about it this way. How much do you think racists in this country hate Jews and black people? And once you take that kind of hatred, that's how much certain Muslims hate other Muslims, and other drug cartels hate other drug cartels, and other parts of the world hate other parts of the world. It's the same hatred. So if you think, that we had slavery and civil rights and all these things took a lot of years, that hatred is long-term there. The Shia and the Shiites, they hate each other.
I mean, no one hates each other as much as neighbors do.
Yeah.
Like, right? I mean, what is your... Think about when you were in high school or whatever, or if you're involved in, like, kids' sports now. Who was your biggest rival? It's the school next to your school. Yeah. It's not like the couple states over. It's not from the other part of the state. It's the people nearest to you are your biggest rivals and competitors, and that's who you want to beat the most. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have here as well. So, this kind of really airport pop fiction story that's sitting in the indictment about how they're all working together is, again, I'm excited for this trial to start and to get some details, because again, I think it's going to be worse than the Luigi Mangione one, right? Where they got the entire, all that stuff thrown out from the very beginning from his arrest. It's going to be similar. It's going to be James Comey getting his charges dropped because the prosecution's so incompetent. I think that's why the machine gun thing is in there, because I think they can actually definitively get him on that. But it's going to be like, all right, you had a machine gun in Venezuela. Who gives a shit? Like, that's not an American law that you can't own a machine gun.
You know what? It's probably going to be like, by the time this goes through the court process and everything is where he's hoping that Maduro just has nowhere else to go. And he's like, nobody's going to want him in Venezuela because it's doing well. Because, hey, I really hope everything works out for Venezuela. I hope they, get shit together. The violence is minimal. They regain some form of prosperity. And everything's swimmingly. But we don't live, unfortunately, in a world where people are not always clamoring to seize power from other people. So I can't see this going as well as they hope. But, according to Trump, he's saved... at least, I think it was like he gave a number of like 2,000 people's lives for every boat they just blew up or something in America from the drugs that they were going to break in.
Being down from the billions and billions that he's been claiming.
Yeah, that's when I heard him say like that today. I said to my wife, I was like, wait, is he really working out the math now? Are they like actually thinking about math? Is this like actually maybe a fair translation that makes some kind of sense? Oh, look, save 500 million American lives. Huh? Holy shit.
We saved 100 billion Americans. It's like, yeah.
Oh, but, he was reading most of it, so somebody writes it for him.
All right, well, it's going to be fun to see what happens next. Any last thoughts, bud?
Well, like I said before, I hope this works out. Regardless, I might not be a fan of it. I might not be a fan of Trump or his dealings and how he went about any of these things, but, you just got to hope that this thing that works out and it doesn't turn into some fucking monumental civil war where he's just like, all right, forget it.
Yeah, honestly, all the best.
It's Biden's fault.
Oh, God. Yeah, he's definitely going to blame Biden at some point. Well, you were pointing out that, didn't he say something along the lines of that Sidney Powell was saying that it was a communist plot to rig the 2020 election, and that Chavez and Maduro, which I think Chavez was already dead by that point, but it was basically because of Maduro that was a significant component. Yeah, this might get silly before it gets better.
Oh, shit.
What?
That's going to be it then. He is going to they're going to go to Maduro and say, listen, You want a lot of this shit to go away. You want to live a life in paradise. Maybe your buddy Putin will take you or whatever. You want to do all those things. You say that you rigged the election in 2020.
Could be one hell of a plea deal.
Yeah. And he's like, you show them the equipment you have or whatever, and how you tell your people this is what you need to tell them that you did it, and he'll finally be like, hey, look, see guys, I did it. Told you.
You know what? Subscribe. Sign me up. All right. Let's see if it comes to that. I'm liking your version. Me personally, I'm hoping that honestly the Venezuelan people just have some peace and stability and start to get some prosperity back. That's been a long time for them, and they honestly need it. They deserve it. That said, I mean, I'm just hoping it's not, again, for the Venezuelan people, that this isn't a rehashing of Iraq in 2003, because that's just going to be, whew.
But we don't have money for affordable health care, folks. But we have enough money to hang out in Venezuela in perpetuity. That sounds about right.
If anyone wants to make 2026 and going further, like the best years ever, because we've had some real sketchy years over the past decade, can we really find an alternative energy solution? Please. Something, anything. Can this shit stop being about oil?
Can't we get a really efficient power supply and a really efficient solar panel already? I mean, stop making robots. We don't need them. But fucking energy really, really cheap? That would be pretty big.
All right, bud. Catch you later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see everyone soon. Love you. Be good.
Au revoir. Idiot Seeking Village is a production of Village Idiots Media. For more, find us online at villageidiotsmedia.com or find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and wherever you get podcasts.